All right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, and speaking of beer, tonight we tried a brand new beer from Toppling Goliath that we were both pretty excited about.
Yeah, it was delicious. We also spent way too much time talking about a guy that doesn't even play for the Vikings, plays for the wrong team.
Well, nobody right
played
now.
for the wrong team and doesn't play for anybody right now. But anyways, that's beside the point.
Absolutely. And then we dove into a lot of draft talk since we're less than a week away from the 2025 draft.
Yeah, and then lastly, we reminisced a little bit about our favorite Vikings draft memories, which actually turned out to be a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's always fun to look back at good memories and maybe even some that turned out to be not so great, but at the time they were pretty good.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Having said all that, go ahead and grab a cold one and join us.
Let's go.
Skol. All right, we just want to take a minute here and say thank you to show sponsor Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking at all to take a trip to a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive resort, go ahead and send our friends at Big Top an email. You can do that by emailing bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com and just let them know, hey, I'm looking to go to a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive. These are the dates I'm looking at. This is how many people. Let them know some of the details, and they'll get you hooked up with, I can verify, the best rates possible for any of those all-inclusive resorts. So yeah, give them a shout and take a great all-inclusive trip.
Yeah, thanks, Big Top. What's the countdown on your next Big Top trip?
Man, less than a month. I think a month from now I will have returned from my latest trip to Jamaica.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited.
Come back nice and golden tan.
Maybe. I'm still an avid indoorsman, so even there, obviously you spend a lot of time outside, but I also don't like getting sunburned, so you're under the cabana and everything too. So we'll see. I'll probably get a tan.
Do you remember when we were in middle school and you went on a fishing trip and you came back to school and you were super sunburned?
Yep. I was allowed to, on the boat, just take off my shirt, and we were in middle school. What was I? 11-ish years
12,
old,
13, something
and
like that.
Nobody ever told me to put sunscreen on, and that's fine. When you're 11 years old, you can be responsible enough to put sunscreen on. Apparently not, because I had blisters forming inside of blisters. I remember I had to pull my hair out of the blisters that were forming in my ears. I was miserable. Oh, it was awful.
I just remember one of our friends coming up to you in the lunchroom and be like, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah,
and you were like, ah!
I probably cried. I probably teared up at that point. So when you do go on a trip with Big Top Ventures, please pack plenty of sunscreen. Nobody should ever be that sunburned ever again. I think even now, if I were to go under a black light, you'd see blotches under my skin of probably things future Austin's gonna have to worry about with his skin care doctors. But yeah, that was bad. Don't ever do that to yourselves.
Well, good news is we're in a well-lit studio and we don't have to worry about sun.
Are these LEDs? So, are they safe?
Yeah,
we're not gonna get.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think everything in here is LED. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
you don't have to worry about anything. But we can crack these open. You brought these today.
Yeah. So we've got a new one from Toppling Goliath. I think this has only been out officially to the public for maybe a month or so. Not very long at all.
I haven't even seen it on shelves, so I'm surprised that you were able to find it.
Yeah. So this one is called the Cyber Sue. It's in their Pseudo Sue series. I feel like I'm saying a lot of S words right now. Pseudo is, I guess, technically a P word, but whatever. This one is an IPA with Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe hops. If you're not familiar, the different types of hops in an IPA can drastically change the flavors in a lot of great ways. And yeah, I'm really excited about this one. 7.2%. So it's definitely going to hold its own. This is a headache beer. If you have, quite a few of these, the next morning you're going to have a headache. And that's fine. That's fine. You just got to drink responsibly and understand where you need to be. So, yeah, you already cracked yours open.
I cracked it open. I just wanted to smell it.
Should we give it a try?
With all those hops in there, I was like, I got to get a whiff. And it smells hoppy for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Great. I'm going to do my best Austin pour here.
You should. It's a good pour. I think I did a little bit too hard of a pour here. But they do have a description on the side of the can, I noticed. I haven't read it yet, but I want to read it out loud here before we give it a try. So also on the Pseudo Sue series, I think Sue is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So every can in that series has a T-Rex. This one looks like a robot. It looks like if it were Austin Powers, it'd be like a shark with, what do they say, freaking laser on its head. So this one has lasers shooting out of its head. The description says, in the battle against boring IPAs, this beastly brew has your back. It's bursting with tropical fruit notes from a killer squad of Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe hops that creates mango, pineapple, and fresh tangerine aromas. Raise your glass and charge ahead with Cyber Sue on your side. You'll surely come out the victor. So,
Skol.
Yeah, that got me jacked up. I'm ready to try this.
Let's do it. Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Very, very fruity, I think.
Very fruity and hoppy all at the same time. It's clear almost.
Yeah.
It's not like a hazy IPA. It's a very golden.
It almost looks like a Pilsner.
Yeah, like for sure.
Bud Light type look to it.
We still got a lot of suds going on there at the top.
Yeah, we both had pretty hard pours there. But yeah, very fruity, but I think it's not quite a sour because there is enough of those hops in there to make sure it's an IPA. 7% or 7.2%. I feel like I can taste that, if I didn't even know the ABV, I'd still know oh yeah, this one's a little bit higher.
Yep.
You can taste that, but I kind of like that.
But it's not like in your face boozy either.
There are definitely beers that you take one sip and you're like, oh yeah, that's a boozy one. This one, it's packing itself a little bit, but it's not into that like overly boozy category. I like it a lot.
Yeah, this is definitely like squarely in your category of beer for sure. So I'm not surprised that you like it. Yeah, I like it too. So
the only thing is it's throwing me off that it's not very hazy.
Yeah.
It tastes very hazy.
It does.
But yeah, it's just the appearance. I mean, looks aren't everything, but I wouldn't think it tastes like it does just by looking at it. It's really good.
So while you were reading the description, I had a quick idea for a little pop quiz. We've had Pseudo Sue before, which is kind of the flagship Toppling Goliath beer. It's probably their most famous beer.
Might be my favorite beer of all time.
It's a really good beer. What episode did we drink Pseudo Sue on?
Honestly, it was probably really early.
It was very early.
Like 2 or something, because I love that beer. And if I was responsible for bringing it, I probably would have grabbed that one very quickly.
You're close. It's not 2.
Is it? It's not 1.
It wasn't 1. No. It's in the top 10. I'll give you that.
Okay.
It's in the first 10 episodes.
Then I'll just throw a guess out. 7.
Nope.
All right. What episode was it thereof?
It was episode 4.
Ooh, okay.
Episode 4 that we featured Pseudo Sue. So if you're interested in that and want to hear our very early thoughts and literally our 4th episode, well, 5th episode technically, 4th released
we did
episode.
Have the other unreleased initial episode.
We do have an unreleased episode out there, but yeah, episode 4 was Toppling Goliath's Pseudo Sue. So it's fun to come back around to kind of a variation of it. So
one thing I also like about this, there's a lot of purple and yellow on this can.
Yeah, I noticed that.
A almost golden yellow T-Rex with a mostly purple can. Yeah, this this one, good job, Toppling Goliath. Yeah, you hit another one out of the park, and I think you knew that because you put the Sioux name on it, and they don't do that to just any beer. So
I was at the store today, and I saw there's another Fandango.
Oh man,
beer.
What is this one? Let me guess. Is it like strawberry something or blueberry something?
Close. It was, what was it? It was like I think it was called Dragon Fandango.
Oh, like I feel like I've seen that.
Like a tea almost.
Okay.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, listeners,
dragon fruit kind of thing.
Yeah, listeners may not remember Toppling Goliath has their Fandango series where one of them is the caramel apple Fandango. Another one is like lemon meringue.
Lemon meringue. Yeah. Yep.
So kind of like a candy, fruity, sour. That's another series they do along with the Sioux series here. But yeah, maybe we should try that dragon one.
Yeah, I know where I can get it, so I'll maybe try to pick some up. Now I want to see when we had that caramel apple Fandango.
Oh man, I couldn't even tell you.
Episode 57.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay, almost a year since then.
That was September of this. Well, I mean, this school year. That was this past September,
2024. Okay, yeah. So not quite a year. 3/4 of a year so far. Sweet.
Well, I'm enjoying this so far, and I think we should get into chatting about some Viking stuff because we're inching towards the draft.
Yep. And another thing I think our listeners may remember, you and I we would not consider ourselves to be draft experts. Usually, and please correct me if I'm saying incorrect things about you, I think the both of us, we usually don't dive deep too much into the players they're about to draft unless it's like the Vikings hold the number 3 overall pick and then like, okay, they're overwhelmingly likely to draft this guy.
I was going to pull up my notebook and say, no, actually, I studied the draft. I'm just kidding. I don't. No, I will watch the draft, but I'm not a big draft, like pre-draft nerd that's like, oh, the Vikings need to take this guy here and they need to trade up here. And I just consume the draft. I just like to watch it, and I get sucked in by the drama of it all, and like, oh man, we're gonna talk about some of our favorite draft memories here in a little bit.
I will say last year was a little different because we knew, the Vikings need a quarterback.
Yep.
There's one of 2 to 3 to 4 names that they could pretty much have the opportunity to draft at 11, which is what they initially held. So we were very, very well versed on Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix. We were even saying Michael Penix was an option. I think both of us did not want either Nix or Penix, no matter what. But yeah, that last year was different because it was so high profile and a little bit easier to pinpoint at least the position they were going for. But I think both of us would say we didn't know Dallas Turner existed until they traded up to draft him last year, right? Like,
I knew he existed, but I was not expecting the Vikings to pick him up. And I was not expecting them to trade up like they did to go after him.
To give up basically a whole draft.
But coming back to the quarterback situation, that still remains to be kind of this... I don't know how we would describe it. Kind of almost like this, like Bermuda Triangle, almost of like what are the Vikings gonna do at quarterback 2, right? Like, there's just no movement. The needle has not moved an inch, a centimeter, a millimeter on that front at all. It's been JJ McCarthy and Brett Rippon, and that's it. There are no other quarterbacks left on the roster after, they ended the season with 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, they had Nick Mullins, Daniel Jones, Brett Rippon, JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold. I think that was it.
Yeah. But yeah, we're sitting here going, like, all these other guys, even the veterans, Joe Flacco and who else is signed
every few days it seemed like there was a time there every few days or once a week, a high profile second stringer would sign somewhere. Joe Flacco, Cooper Rush went to Baltimore.
Yep.
I feel like
Keenum.
Yeah, Case Keenum. He went to Chicago. That kind of stinks. I would have been okay with Keenum. Even Trey Lance, he signed with LA, the Chargers. So all of these guys that you seem to think like, okay, he could fit in here as QB2, nothing's happening. And then every once in a while, the Vikings will say like, oh, you'll hear like, oh yeah, the Vikings weren't even really in on Joe Flacco or Case Keenum, or, which you never know what you can truly believe. But there is one, unfortunately, high profile guy out there.
And he's still out there.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Has been tied to the Vikings for a little while. So Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He was just on Pat McAfee here within the last couple of days. And did you watch that Pat McAfee spot?
I saw clips. I saw highlights just on social media. Okay. I didn't watch it.
All live. I saw was like quotes. I didn't even see the whole thing at all. But there was a story here in the last week that I think you kind of wrote it down. Rodgers kind of made a pitch or an offer to the Vikings, and he may have been waiting for the Vikings to make a decision. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I think first and foremost, if you're a Vikings fan out there, you do not want Aaron Rodgers to suit up in a purple jersey. Mm-hmm. We do not want that. That is not. We talked about it on our last episode with Dustin Baker and Sal Spice. And I think they both agreed too. Like, no, he's not even remotely an option at this point.
I will say, if we were in some alternate reality and JJ McCarthy was never a Viking and currently the Vikings only had Brett Rippon on the roster, then I'd be like, all right, yeah, you got to have somebody. And Aaron Rodgers, there's no question, he is historically one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. If there was no JJ McCarthy and the only thing going was Brett Rippon, right now I'd be like, all right, you gotta go for Aaron Rodgers. Like, why haven't you signed him already?
Well, there were, I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 episodes ago now, where we were talking about like, oh man, the Vikings have $30 million left in cap space. Mm-hmm. And I think I made the comment like, you gotta wonder if they're just sitting waiting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers, and then that's the offer that they make to him. 1 year, 30 mil, eats up all of the rest of the cap space pretty much. And
that'd be tough.
Apparently, though, he said on McAfee the other day was 10.
Yeah.
I said, no, 1 year, 10 million. And maybe he's blowing smoke, or maybe he's actually telling the truth. Maybe he's legit when he says, yeah, I'll be the backup for 10 million. And I will help mentor, develop, and I can go in when needed. Man. But I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't think either of us would want Aaron Rodgers any part of JJ McCarthy's development. Again, there's no question Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. In his prime, he's not been in his prime for a long time. And maybe the injury just took a while for him to heal up from. Maybe the Jets, that was just a dumpster fire and nobody was going to perform well in that situation. I don't know. But he's also getting up there. And, I mean, nobody's Tom Brady, but if anybody could play as long as Brady did at a high level, I'd say Rodgers would be able to do it. But that's not what we've been seeing. So, no, I don't want Aaron Rodgers anywhere near this team, anywhere near our quarterback, JJ McCarthy. Having said that, if it happens tomorrow, I'm a fan of the Vikings, and I'm going to root for a win no matter what. I feel like it would hurt the team long run.
I saw a post today. It was anyways, it was, I'm not articulating this well.
Was it like a meme of a post or something?
Well, it was like one of those, like there was an original post and then somebody replied to it, and the reply was really funny. Okay. The original post said something along the lines of Shailene Woodley, who is one of Aaron Rodgers' former girlfriends, has come out to say like, she felt like totally depressed and like her life was just meathless after being with him and blah, blah, blah. And the reply to the post was, yeah, that's how the Jets feel now too. I thought that was really funny. And to bring it all home, I think that's how we would probably feel as Vikings fans too. Like, even if it was $10 million and all he did was sit on the bench and quote unquote mentor JJ McCarthy, I think we would still feel like, well, that was just a ripoff. Like, we got 14 wins for $10 million out of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, which is also not the norm.
I know it's not the norm, but like after a season like we had last year, at the price tag that we got Sam Darnold for last year, that would just feel so, and with the pedigree that comes with Aaron Rodgers, that would just feel cheap. That would just feel not good. Like, man, we paid him $10 million to sit on the bench and do nothing.
Imagine how Jets fans feel right now.
Yeah.
How much did he make from the Jets in the last 2 seasons? And yeah, the first one he was injured, but that didn't turn into anything. They were saying like, yo, we'll finally make the playoffs for the first time and since like 2009. I think this is the last time the Jets made the playoffs. We like to joke that it sucks being a Vikings fan sometimes, but there's other teams that have seen a lot of stuff too. And,
yes.
The Jets, I mean, and what do they have? 1 Super Bowl win? And their quarterback was Joe Namath. Like, it probably sucks really hard sometimes to be a Jets fan. But again, we're not turning into a Jets podcast.
Okay, but I think we should answer one question here. Mm-hmm. Will Aaron Rodgers retire? And if not, where does he end up this coming season? So give your prediction.
So my prediction, I'll give the quick answer and then some explanation. I don't think he'll retire.
Okay.
I truly believe he's to the point that when he says, yeah, I'd play for $10 million, he probably means that. Like, he's made how many tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in his career so far. He doesn't have anything to prove. If he still has a desire to play, I really think he will. And there's going to be opportunities. I think, and I'm perfectly okay with being dead wrong on this, I think regardless of what he's saying or anybody reports or says, the Vikings are a decent spot to be right now for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably, maybe not officially, but kind of just keeping his options open. And maybe his, preferred plan would be to sign with the Vikings, whether it's as QB1 or as a coach in the, coach in uniform. I don't know. And he's probably okay at this point, waiting it out because he knows whether, if the Vikings don't work out, he's probably got a date in mind of like, all right, if not the Vikings, then by mid-training camp, I'll go with whoever else is calling, whether it's the Steelers or the Giants or somewhere else. He will have an opportunity. Some team will be like, whether it's through injury or not, will be like, all right, yeah, we're the Steelers and it's Aaron Rodgers. Let's get him in here. So I think he's probably just taking the luxury of not having to sign anywhere right now. And even if he doesn't get an opportunity, he can still hang his hat and be like, yeah, I was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't need the money. I don't need the glory. I don't need the eyes on me, even though he likes the eyes on him. I think he'll play. I think he wants to play for Minnesota, but he doesn't have any reason to hastily sign anywhere else if Minnesota doesn't become an option.
Well, and if he doesn't get signed anywhere, he can still go on McAfee every Tuesday and make his case for why some team out there should sign him. And he basically has free license to say, oh yeah, I watched the fill in the blank team game this week. Mm-hmm. I watched the Browns game this week. That sucked. I could probably help him out. Right. And the media circus that is him I think will continue for a while still.
I think there's a few teams that if he called them right now, they would sign him tonight before midnight. Like, he's got that pedigree and he's earned it on the field to just be able to say like, yeah, okay, Coach Tomlin, I'll come play for you in Pittsburgh and let's do it. But yeah, I think he's just taking the luxury of not having to make that decision right now, which, I mean, I guess power to him. But as a Vikings fan, I would only be slightly okay with it if, and here's kind of a rumor that's going around social media, is the Vikings are kind of waiting until OTAs to see how JJ looks, on the field, not just in practice, but like, in a practice setting on the field playing real football. And if they're good with that, then they'll roll with it. But if not, then they might give Aaron Rodgers a call. So I don't know. That seems to be a rumor going around, but maybe Rodgers is okay with that.
Here's my prediction. and this is totally unbiased, he's going to retire. No,
Okay.
that's obviously what I want to happen.
Okay.
It's very biased, but I think he should. I think he should just hang it up, be done. Go on McAfee every Tuesday if you want. If that's lucrative for you, if you can make a little bit of money doing that, you can be a daily appearance. Maybe you and AJ Hawk can hang out together, smoke cigars, and talk to McAfee every day in the second hour of the show or whatever. I don't know, but no, I think he proved in the last 2 seasons with the Jets that his body can't handle it anymore, and even if he can last for a full season like he did this last year, he's just not as productive. He's not as effective as he once was. He still has a wonderful football mind. I think he would make a heck of a coach somewhere, but I think his playing days are certainly numbered, and I wouldn't be surprised if we heard tomorrow that he's hanging it up, he's done. And
Yeah. Now, to put it in perspective, yes, he is not the Aaron Rodgers of old, but I think he even missed a couple of games last year in 2024. Is that right?
He still had a decent season.
Yeah, he still had 38, almost 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions, which that's a high number for him. That's probably one of the highest of his career. And to compare it to Sam Darnold, who had 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, and then even one more interception with 12, Aaron Rodgers, still had a slightly respectable year. I will say this, if at the end of the 25-26 season, we're saying J.J. McCarthy had 3,900 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, we're going to be on cloud 9.
Yeah.
Just like, yes, this guy is something. He can actually do it, and this is just the foundation to build upon. So, yes, that 41 or 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers with those stats is way different than a 22-year-old J.J. McCarthy. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. I would still watch every game if they signed Aaron Rodgers, and even if he got on the field, I would still obviously root for the Vikings to do well. I would not choose to have Aaron Rodgers sign with the team. But I think and it's for that reason, the stats, he's still able to throw a football. That's why I'm saying he probably won't retire. Like, he's going to have an opportunity somewhere.
Well, I think we've spent way too much time talking about this guy who's never played for the Vikings and may never, hopefully never play for the Vikings. We've got a draft coming up.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, less than a week at this point. We're gonna be in round 2.
Yeah, at this moment, yeah.
A week from now, next Friday night, it'll be round 2 of the 2025 NFL draft, being held in Green Bay, by the way. Interestingly enough,
which is weird because, like, how are anybody gonna communicate with each other without the internet? Like, they're gonna actually have to get carrier pigeons or something. That's probably the best carrier pigeons in all of the world is in Green Bay because they're actually using them still. But
yeah. Yeah, they don't have 5G ultra wideband up there.
They don't even probably have the 3G. AOL boot up. I think they just got that recently.
Hang on, let me plug into the modem here and send my text message.
Here we are in Iowa.
Hey, we got fiber internet here.
Yeah,
we're doing great.
But yeah, the Vikings, they've got 4 picks as of right now in this upcoming draft. Again, we're not, deep dive draft experts. If you're looking for the in-depth opinions on who the Vikings are going to pick, who they should pick, who other teams are going to pick, and how that'll affect the Vikings, I'm sorry, this is not the show for you right now. There are a couple of names I've picked up on just by consuming other Vikings content elsewhere. So at least in round 1, whoever they pick, I will probably have heard their name before. But after that, they've only got 4 picks total. So a first, a third, a fifth, and is this a 6th?
Yeah, I don't even know. But the Vikings have the fewest draft picks of any team this year at 4. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kwesi tries to pull some strings, work some magic, and trade some picks away to get more picks, just to have
Like
more
trade
opportunities.
down.
Yeah. So
I would almost go as far as to say I would be surprised if the Vikings still held pat and picked at 24. I kind of am anticipating the Vikings not making a pick in the first round next week. Would I be mad if they picked, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State at 24th overall to solidify that left guard spot? No, I wouldn't be mad. I don't know enough about anybody to be mad. But if it were up to me, which thank God it's not, because this team would have been disintegrated. But if it were up to me, I'd say you got to trade back. If there's an opportunity to trade back and get value and add more picks, maybe get a second and whatever else after that, that's the way you got to go. That's the responsible way. What do you think? Are they picking in the first round?
Maybe. I think it'll depend on what happens in the first round. And again, I'm not a draft expert. I have not really spent a whole lot of time studying all of the ins and outs and who needs what. I know that this year's draft is much less hyped than last year's draft.
Oh yeah.
I think the two big names are Shedeur Sanders and the quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward.
Well, then Travis Hunter.
And Travis Hunter, yeah. I mean, those are kind of the three big names. They'll go in the top 5.
I think
maybe
Sanders,
top 10.
I think Sanders is going to fall. I think Sanders is only big because ESPN says he is.
Well, and he's had a little bit of a PR nightmare where he's kind of done some interviews and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He has this arrogance about him, this big head about him like his dad does, and he kind of just, says, well, yeah, I'm the man, and you'd be foolish not to pick me, and blah, blah, blah. And I think it worked for his dad back then because we weren't used to athletes
and his dad could actually back it up.
Yeah, and not to say that he can't necessarily, he just can't to the extent that his dad could back in the day.
Deion Sanders, as just ridiculous and annoying as he is and always has been,
yes,
was a generational athlete, like a bona fide Hall of Famer, played professional sports in 2 different sports
at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time, and that would never happen
flew
anymore.
Back and forth between games, played in a World Series and played in a professional football game, like World Series game, NFL game, back to the World Series in 3 days.
Crazy. So Deion Sanders, yes, has always been annoying even before he started playing pro football, but at least he could back it up on the field. Shedeur, I don't get it. I don't understand. I think it's just because his last name is Sanders. How about Colorado for already saying they're going to retire his number after not even being very good there?
Well, that's just a whole bunch of nonsense.
That's insane.
Honestly.
And when somebody asked Deion about it, he basically said, nobody would even be asking that if his name wasn't Sanders. And I think he meant it to be like you're blowing it up out of proportion. Of course he deserves it, and you're only asking because he's my kid. But what I really think is if his name wasn't Sanders, they wouldn't even be thinking about retiring his number. Thus, nobody would be talking about it. I think he's going to fall because NFL teams hype up people differently than ESPN does. Mm-hmm. And I think that might actually help the Vikings. Somebody might be like, oh, Sanders is still there at 23. Maybe we need to trade up with somebody like the Vikings to try to get there and get him before somebody else gets him.
And so the Vikings can collect picks while someone else maybe falls for the bait of...
I'm not saying that's my prediction. I just think something like that could happen.
No, I don't know. I could see it happening either way. I could see the Vikings picking at 24 because it's a first round pick, and typically, you're gonna get the best of the best in the first round. And I think the Vikings are in prime position to pick best available at this point. There's no one position group that the Vikings have to target. Kwesi proved that in free agency. He covered his bases, and you've got a solid team right now before the draft. Mm-hmm. It's not complete. It's probably not totally done, but you have the flexibility, right? And then you can pick best available, whoever it is, and see if they fit, or you can trade back and collect some more picks and maybe get some more value and collect, get a second and a fourth and a seventh, and I don't know, you're not going to get all that for your first rounder.
I mean, maybe it depends on what the package is, but yeah, absolutely. Having said all that, is there kind of a position, I'm not going to ask you a name because I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Is there a position you'd be disappointed if they didn't address early on in the draft?
I think cornerback is that one position. And I know, who was it that they signed really early on in free agency? They re-signed him. He was with the team last year.
Byron Murphy.
Yeah. No, there's somebody else that I'm thinking of too. The name is escaping me at the moment. Theo Jackson.
He's a safety, but yeah, it's still a defensive backfield.
I'm thinking backfield in general, then maybe safety and cornerback.
Yeah.
They've made moves like that to solidify that defensive backfield, but I still think that's up there in terms of needs. You're losing Cam Bynum. Harrison Smith is coming back, but we thought he would be on a pitch count last year. I think we will definitely see him on a pitch count this year.
But having said that, last year it's not like he took a step down. He was still Harrison Smith.
He was a beast. He balled out. I still think that's the priority. I think friend of the show Dustin Baker might disagree with me a little bit. I think he's still thinking running back, and I think he's thinking, either that first or that third rounder. If they stay put, he says in a recent article here, draft Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. So even signing the kid from San Francisco and getting Aaron Jones back, for Dustin Baker, that doesn't seem like the end-all be-all in the running back room. He's interested in bringing someone else in.
Well, running back specifically, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong in my initial opinion on Aaron Jones last year. I wasn't excited about that at all. I didn't think he would last very long. He's an older running back. Here I am eating my words and saying, I was wrong. He had 1,100 yards last season and balled out and played really well. But I still have the same thoughts. Like, he's another year older, and he's almost, you can't expect much from him. So I can see wanting to solidify that running back position a little bit more. I wouldn't be mad if the right guy fell and the Vikings could get the right guy at 24 at running back. My position, though, that I really hope they address is just interior offensive line. I think the current glaring hole right now on the team on offensive line, one is Christian Darisaw coming back healthy, and the timeline on that, which I think that's going to take longer than most people assume right now. And two is Blake Brendel, who played okay last year, but he's definitely, if everybody else is healthy, he's definitely the weakest link on that offensive line right now after signing Ryan Kelly and Will Fries in free agency. So I'd love to see them draft somebody who could fill that left guard position, maybe even have some flexibility and fill in a hole where Darisaw may be out for a little while. But yeah, that offensive line is still my biggest hope that they address. And then I could see cornerback or defensive backfield being something they need to address as well.
Yeah, and I thought the trenches, both offensive and defensive line, were the highlight. They were the priority, the shining star of Kwesi's free agency. And he and KOC both, they had this united front. We're going to reinforce the trenches. This is where we're going to put our money. And they did that. They put their money where their mouth was, and they made it happen, and they got some really good guys. And I'm excited to see the difference that makes. I think you add to your skill positions now in the draft. That's my opinion. But again, not super well studied on the draft.
Well, I mean, wide receiver too. Yes, you have the best wide receiver in football, but after him, your really good wide receiver too is almost assured to miss a few games through suspension because he was an idiot behind the wheel and mixing it with alcohol, and thank goodness he didn't hurt himself or anyone else. But yeah, he's probably going to miss 2-3-ish games. So wide receiver 2 in the short term is something to be a little concerned about. And wide receiver 3. I mean, right now, what's his name, 83, Jalen Naylor, he's still on the roster, but I think we've seen his ceiling, and his ceiling, it's not like he's always living at his ceiling. He's just bouncing up and down from there. After that, there's not a lot to talk about at the wide receiver position, so maybe solidifying that a little bit would help as well.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, the signing of Rondale Moore was a little splashy in free agency, but I remember talking about him too, and I think we even talked about it with Dustin Baker. Like, yeah, he's not this like elite talent necessarily. Yeah, he's a good wide receiver, but
he has the physical ability to potentially be a game changer, but he hasn't shown consistently that. I think injuries have kind of hurt Rondale a little bit.
Was he a Bear? Did he get drafted by the Bears?
No, he's a Cardinal. And then he was drafted by the Cardinals and then traded to the Falcons prior to last season.
Okay.
So the Vikings will be his third team.
Gotcha.
Are you thinking DJ Moore?
Maybe.
Who is a really good Bear wide receiver, but
yeah. Anyways, no, I don't disagree with anything you've said. I'm excited for the draft. I'm just excited to see what happens, and grab your popcorn, sit back, watch, enjoy. Who knows? Maybe the Vikings end up with only 3 picks or 2 picks in it. No, they won't end up with that few. But maybe they only pick their 4 and they're done, or maybe Kwesi works some magic and they give birth to like 5 other picks.
Maybe. I hope they get some more picks without, selling the farm, like trading the 24th overall for like 6 rounders. Like that would be just awful. Kwesi's free agency signings has made it so, and his lack of excellent drafts has made me like, not that I don't care about the draft, but I'm not putting a lot of weight on it. Yes, the best teams, build through the draft, but if you go through and just look, I did this the other day, at every year the Vikings drafts for the last like 20 years, it hasn't been great. The last time a Viking made the Pro Bowl, that a drafted Viking made the Pro Bowl, was Justin Jefferson, who was drafted in 2020. So everybody the Vikings have drafted since Justin Jefferson, none of them have made a Pro Bowl. And yes, this is a way bigger threshold, but the last time the Vikings drafted a player that entered the Hall of Fame was Randy Moss. Every single player the Vikings have drafted since Randy Moss, none of them have entered the Hall of Fame. Now, yes, I understand that's a major threshold to cross, and the Vikings have had players on their team go into the Hall of Fame since then, like Jared Allen. He's the most recent example, but he wasn't drafted by the team.
Right.
Now, of course, Adrian Peterson, he will probably go in the Hall of Fame, but he's not eligible yet. And there's guys like Dinosaur and... I tweeted about it. Who else? Dinosaur. Who else am I thinking? Jordan Addison might be a Pro Bowl type guy. There's some guys the Vikings have drafted since Jefferson who could make a Pro Bowl, but nobody has. So the Vikings, all that to say, if you go through and just sift through all the picks the Vikings have made in the last 20 years, there's not a lot of high points. Not a lot of great picks. So, I mean... it's almost a fool's game to put too much into the draft because the Vikings have proven through many years and regimes they're just not amazingly great at it.
Well, and I think we're seeing we've seen this in the NFL for years now, and now it's really starting to hit college sports hard as well. You don't stay with one team anymore. Yeah. You're picked up by one, you're given an opportunity, and then you move on. And, the NIL is such a totally different thing than free agency and the draft and everything that happens in pro sports. But I think it kind of helps us understand kind of where we are in professional sports, because even college kids now are starting to go where the money is. And that's what pro players are doing. They're going where the money is. You look at Kirk Cousins last year. Kirk could have seen the roster that the Vikings were going to have, and could have had conversations with Kwesi and KOC and like, hey, we're going to build this roster in the 2024-25 season, and we want you to be a part of it. Kirk didn't buy that, and he went where the money was, and he got paid a hefty amount to go to Atlanta, and only to get benched. And but I don't think he was too broken up about it, because he got a nice paycheck for sitting the bench for the last, I don't know, third of the season or whatever it was. So like, that is very much the league today. Is players will go where the money is, players will go where the opportunities are, and it's a business. And I don't know. The draft is great.
It's fun.
It brings a lot of good players into the league, but I think Kwesi might be the modern GM. I think he might start to, and I think other GMs are doing this too, buck the trend that, draft and develop. Maybe that's old school. Maybe that's not the way the league will function in years to come. Maybe the league will function in being really savvy with free agency and being really savvy with contract negotiations and figuring out how to structure these contracts in a way where you can get these really good players, not sell the farm to get them, and also not hamstring your franchise for years to come. And I think that's kind of what I think that's the genius of Kwesi, is he's been doing that. He's brought these players in. He hasn't sold the farm to bring them in, nor has he hamstrung the franchise for years to come. The Kirk deal was kind of an anomaly, because Kirk kind of had this big hit, this cap hit for this current season, or the 24-25 season. But now that's off the books, and the books are relatively clean for the Vikings. And Kirk wasn't a Kwesi signing. Kirk was a Spielman signing. So, to take all of that into consideration, you start to look at the bigger picture, and you wonder if Kwesi is doing the right things in the right time, I don't know. I spit a lot of things out.
But I think your last point was that Kwesi is still good, and it's still good that he's a Vikings GM. Yes. I totally agree with that. Me saying that he's not the greatest drafter, I think he would and has said that. He has done everything else with the help of others. He has done everything else, free agency, coaches, signing and not signing other players. Everything else he's done has only been positive for the team, and has put the team in a position to make the playoffs 2 out of the 3 seasons that he and KOC have been leading the team. I think a lot of people laughed at it, or were actually upset about it, but this time last year, he quickly signed Sam Darnold. Nobody could have accurately predicted, like, okay, he's the next, he's going to go to the Pro Bowl and he's going to be amazing, throw for 4,000 plus yards. I think the potential is there. I think you and I both were saying, like, I think he could be really good, Sam Darnold. But at the time, a lot of people were like, that's your plan for quarterback? Now we're saying, okay, Kwesi. I'm saying that was a good move. Sign Sam Darnold. He does things like that. Jonathan Gernard, Andrew Van Ginkel, things like that help the team. And it's like, okay, you know what you're doing.
And then if JJ McCarthy turns out to be a generational quarterback that blows everybody out of the water, we will throw everything out that we've said about Kwesi in the draft. And I think you've said that before, and I'll reiterate it. Like, we will forget everything that we've said, and we will say, oh man, that guy, what a GM. He was so great in free agency and in the draft. I mean, look at what he did with JJ McCarthy, and look at what he did with Sam Darnold, right? Like, I mean, you can have your cake and eat it too with Kwesi,
It is kind of crazy that it seems like Kwesi's found more gems in undrafted free agency than in the actual draft so far. I mean, just Ivan Pace and who's the Jalen Redmond, and well, he wasn't a UDFA, but he was a free agent
UFL player, wasn't he?
Yep. And who else? Dwight McLeathern has some seeming potential. Yeah, it is kind of funny how we're just as excited about these undrafted free agents as we are about these actual drafted guys.
Well, let's wrap things up here by reminiscing on our favorite draft memories.
Yeah.
This was something we'd texted each other about a couple of days ago as we were getting ready for this episode. I'm curious to know, because you have some names down here, but I want to know your perspective on these names and why they're favorites of yours.
Yeah. All right. So the first name I have down, Chad Greenway. So I've been, I wouldn't say diehard, but definitely a lifelong fan of the Iowa Hawkeyes. We're within an hour's drive of that stadium. I've been to a few games. I don't know. You've probably been to a couple of games.
Yep.
So I definitely remember I kind of woke up as a Hawkeye fan during the days of Chad Greenway and Abdul Hodge and that whole team right there. Not that they won championships or anything, but I think he may have been a part of a Big Ten championship. But I do remember I had my first job at Godfather's Pizza, and it was the day of the draft, and I was in the back, probably washing dishes or something. We had a big old tube TV in the back there too, and the draft was going on. The Vikings came up. I think I might be wrong. I think it was pick 17. Not that it matters. I look up just in time to see who the Vikings are about to draft. And as little as I know about the draft now, I knew 1,000 times less back then. I probably didn't even realize the draft was going on that day. But I look up and see with the whatever pick.
The 17th pick.
With the 17th overall pick, the Vikings draft, Chad Greenway, linebacker out of Iowa. And I was like, yes, that's awesome. Let's go. And nobody else in the room even probably acknowledged that I was super excited. But all Chad Greenway did was go on and have a 10-year career with the Vikings, all with the Vikings. I think he made a Pro Bowl or two. He was definitely the consummate Viking. And while he was playing, was one of my favorite players on the team. And I just love that I could go to that room that I watched him get drafted and just stand exactly where I was standing, look up, and just picture. The only reason I know it was the 17th overall pick is because I think I can hear that in my mind. And that was just such a cool, probably the first time I was like, oh yeah, he's going to my favorite team. Like he's a guy that I like is going to the Vikings. This is going to be so cool. And then a few months later, he tore his ACL in the preseason and was out his whole rookie year anyways. But after that, he was pretty darn good.
Yeah. Oh, he's a memorable Viking for sure. One that I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know that they've retired a lot of numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if they honor him or like bring him back in some sort of.
He's not in the Ring of Honor, is he?
He's not.
He's kind of that borderline guy. He made a couple Pro Bowls, but he was definitely a good Viking, a leader on the team, probably a captain. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't think anybody's going to argue like, oh, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was never the best linebacker in the league at any point, but he was always really good and always up there. Like I think any team at the time that he was playing would have been glad to have him on their team.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he was really, really good as a Hawkeye, like you said.
And it's funny that his tag teammate at Iowa, Abdul Hodge, got drafted to the Packers. Mm-hmm. And Hodge, he didn't have as long or as tenuous as a career in the NFL, but he still played a few years. You may not know this. Abdul Hodge, this is definitely tangent territory. I think our freshman year at UNI, Abdul Hodge's little brother had transferred to UNI and played, I think, his last season of college football at UNI in hopes of, because I think he went to the University of Wisconsin prior to that and then transferred to UNI to get more playing time and then potentially get a shot at the NFL. I don't know what happened with him. I don't even know Hodge's little brother's name, but I do know he did attend UNI. We overlapped for at least a year. You're looking it up here.
I'm trying to Google it right now.
But I think even Abdul Hodge had some like coaching experience.
Elijah Hodge?
That makes sense, yeah. But yeah, little interesting tidbit. It was fun. I always enjoyed having Chad Greenway on the Vikings. I think he was just a net positive, and I think he still lives in Minneapolis. Actually, I know he does because he was on the Power Trip morning show this morning and played the Initials game.
It is Elijah Hodge was his brother, and his brother's now a coach at the University of South Dakota,
Oh,
which
nice.
they play in the same conference, football conference as you and I. So interesting. I didn't know that.
All right, man. What do you have fond memories of as a fan of the Vikings in the draft?
Yeah, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the draft until my adult life. I mean, yes, there are like moments where I'm like, oh, cool, yeah, Chad Greenway, okay, yeah.
Christian Ponder, I think we were all excited for.
Christian Ponder, going back to those days. But it wasn't until adulthood that I was like, okay, yeah, the draft is fun to watch, and I'm definitely interested in what the Vikings will do. I think one of my favorite memories is it was the 2020 draft that everybody was at home for COVID, and even the coaches and GMs were, in their own spots, and everything was, video conferenced or whatever. I love watching, and I still watch it sometimes just for fun. Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer kind of laughing at the Eagles for passing up on Justin Jefferson. They picked Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, they did.
Right? They picked Jalen Reagor, and they both just kind of looked at each other and like,
did they just do that?
What?
Did they just pass Justin Jefferson?
And obviously we know how that story ended up. And Jalen Reagor came and played for the Vikings for a handful of years.
I think 2 seasons,
Yeah, and didn't amount to much. But
he's still bouncing around. I think Reagor is with the Chargers right now.
And not a bad player, not a bad guy.
Yeah.
But man, the Vikings struck gold in that draft with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And they knew it too.
Oh, immediately.
Zimmer and Spielman knew it for sure.
Like you said, they were laughing as they were putting in the card to draft Justin Jefferson. Like, no freaking way did that just happen. Like, I will admit, I probably never heard Justin Jefferson's name before that night. I'm not a diehard college fan, and if it is, it's mostly just the Hawkeyes, and then after that, it's Vikings. So I probably had never realized Justin Jefferson existed before then. So it didn't really occur to me. Honestly, it didn't really occur to me how good Jefferson was until his first touchdown against the Titans.
That was memorable, for sure.
And that game, I'll never forget that game. You and I were texting. You were like, he seems pretty good. Could be the next Moss. And I don't know what your thought process was behind saying those words, but when I heard those words, I took them to heart. Like, are you kidding me right now? Because you wouldn't just say that for oh yeah, he had an okay game. Like, this one random dude had a decent game. He's the next, Fran Tarkenton. You don't just say stuff like that. So that's really when I was like, oh yeah, Justin Jefferson's pretty good.
And I think at that point, when Justin Jefferson was drafted, I think I had a little bit more of a college football conscience at that point. And I knew JJ and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, they lit it up at LSU, and they were talkers. They were names that people knew, and I'm like, all right, Justin Jefferson. And then, like you said, he comes in and catches that first touchdown. It wasn't the first game of the season.
No,
right?
It was second or third
game of the season. But I remember texting you and saying he could be this generational player. And now here we are, 5 years into his career. Is it 5 or 6? 5.
This was the 5th year, I think.
Yeah,
well, it's 2025. So this will be the 5th year. He's 4 seasons in.
Yeah. Anyways.
20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so 24 was his 5th season.
He's played 5 seasons.
Yes.
He will go into his 6th.
That's how math works.
But I mean, I don't regret saying that he could be the next Moss for a second. And I don't think even, 2 or 3 games after that, you would have disagreed with me. I think you would have said, oh, yeah, this kid's special.
I don't think I disagreed in the moment. It's not like I said, okay, don't be crazy. I took it to heart, oh, Evan actually likes this dude. This, and he's showing it on the field as we speak.
Well, that first touchdown that he caught was so crazy. It was almost, there was another touchdown that he caught this year.
Oh, yeah, against the Falcons?
Yeah, where he made the 2 defenders kind of run into each other, and then he just, he was wide open with nobody within 15 yards of him.
Yeah.
And it was very reminiscent of his first touchdown, almost like in the same exact spot on the field, going the same direction. And it was just like, I remember when he did that for the first time in a Vikings uniform. He's still doing it. So,
and importantly, when the Vikings picked Jefferson, it was right after they had traded away Stephon Diggs, who is still a pain in the rear. He's just an unhappy person. But yeah, the Vikings had a hole at wide receiver. Thielen was rising to be, or he was in the midst of being a Pro Bowler and really good. But yeah, they had just traded away one of the better receivers in the league, and they got a decent haul for him, but they still had a hole at wide receiver, and all they did was draft the best wide receiver in the game. Also, don't feel too bad for the Eagles and Eagles fans, because all they've done since the Vikings picked Justin Jefferson is have they appeared in 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them.
Something like that.
They're okay. they're doing just fine. And actually, I would go as much to argue, if I could swap places, and if you could go back and be like, okay, the Eagles draft Jefferson, but the Vikings get all the accolades the Eagles have had since then, if you don't instantly say yes, do it, you're not a real fan, because that includes 2 Super Bowl wins, right? 2? Yeah, because the first one was the Nick Foles
against the Philly Special.
I think I'm wrong on that.
But that was before JJ was drafted, I think. Wasn't that like 17, 18, 19, something like that?
Yeah, I'm wrong. They've at least won 1 Super Bowl since Justin Jefferson was drafted by the Vikings.
But still, if that's the option, you get Justin Jefferson, who's going to be this generational wide receiver, probably Randy Moss like in terms of his status and his ability to play the game, or you draft Jalen Reagor, who bounces around from team to team for 5 years, but you win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've appeared in 2 and won 1 since the Vikings.
They lost to the Chiefs,
and then they beat the Chiefs.
So
yeah, I'd take it. I'd even take a Super Bowl loss. Like, give me something. But yeah, so all that to say, Eagles fans, you're fine. You don't need Justin Jefferson, obviously. And Vikings fan, at least we have Justin Jefferson, who can hopefully give us a Super Bowl at some point.
Do you have an honorable mention favorite draft memory?
I put 2 down.
That's what I'm asking.
So did you, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so my other one, I just wrote down another player's name. Senior year of high school for us.
Mm-hmm.
I had really started flourishing in a friendship with a buddy of both of ours.
Yep.
And this friend was, and still is,
big Gators fan.
Big Florida Gators fan.
Yep.
And this was like the peak of Tim Tebow time.
Yep.
They were winning a national championship here and there. And because, our friend was a big Gator fan, I was kind of, I wouldn't say like they were my number one team, because I hate when people who have never touched the state of Texas and they're diehard Cowboys fans, but I was more interested in the Florida Gators at that point than I had ever been or will ever be. So I knew some of these guys and, some of the players on the team. And when the Vikings drafted Percy Harvin, who you could argue, maybe even including Tim Tebow, was the best football player on those Gator football teams during that run, that Urban Meyer run of championships. When the Vikings drafted him, I couldn't have been more excited. I was way more excited than when they had drafted Chad Greenway. They had just taken Adrian Peterson 2 drafts before that, and then they draft Percy freaking Harvin, who, no matter what his off the field stuff ever was, he was only ever the best football player on the field whenever he touched grass. He could run the ball, he could catch the ball. He was a big part of those national championships, and he was joining our team, and I was pumped. And I'll never forget that. And then that just like increased our friendship with CJ in high school, and that was one more thing to be like, dude, I can't believe like a player you like is on my team now. And it's kind of like our friend of the show Forrest right now with JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Yep.
And for a few years, Percy Harvin was really fun to watch. It just sucks that he was such an a-hole. And just, I will never have a positive opinion on Percy Harvin, the person, but man, some of my most exciting plays to watch as a Vikings fan were because of Percy Harvin. So football player Percy Harvin, I still love that dude. Actual dude Percy Harvin, I mean, I'm not going to crap on a dude I've never met, but he could walk in here and be like, oh, okay, like whatever.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Stop being a jerk.
I think what made that even more fun for you and me and our friend was we lived in the same dorm our freshman year and our sophomore year when Percy was drafted, and it was kind of like, I don't know, like, I can't speak for CJ, but I feel like he kind of became this like quasi Vikings fan for a time, because it's like, oh yeah, my Florida Gator guy is now playing for the Vikings, and he's actually really, really good. And he was really good.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, really good. I'll never forget, he had one touchdown catch against the Packers of all teams. And you might remember it as I describe it. It was a decent distance down the field, in the middle of the field. He leaped up to catch the ball, and then 3 Packers that were between him and the end zone, all like bowling pin, knocked each other over as he's coming down from catching the ball, and he kind of turns around and just kind of waltzes into the end zone because the Packers just literally ran into each other. There's another one, I think it was against the Lions, which I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. Percy, again, in the middle of the field, caught this short pass and immediately turned around. I think it was the Lions linebacker on his shoulders just shoved him. Percy basically like bends in half because he was, shoved very hard, not wrapped up, regains his composure and still gains like 50 yards. That dude was electric.
Yes.
If he came in today, he would still be, the 22-year-old version of him came into the league today, he would light up the league. He was so much fun to watch.
Yes.
And it just sucks that, he talked his way out of the Vikings, but at least they got a decent haul for him when they traded him to Seattle. He also won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks after being traded from the Vikings, but still, it was fun to watch him on the field for the Vikings.
Yeah, he was a heck of a player. My honorable mention was from the last draft. It was from last year, and we've already mentioned this, but it was, and there were clips circulating online of, it was basically, Kwesi coming in saying like, we got him, and KOC kind of spins in his chair and goes,
what? With a big gaping, like almost dumb look on his face.
So that was really fun to watch and just see that chemistry between GM and coach, just like in the war room, draft night. It's a big deal, stakes are high, the cameras are on, everybody's watching, and KOC just had this really raw moment of like,
I can't believe it.
Oh,
of course, I don't think you've said it yet. The player you're talking about,
Dallas Turner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, yeah, I failed to mention that part. But the other thing to mention with that is like, I still don't think we've seen the best of Dallas Turner in a Vikings uniform. And we were kind of at some points this last season pounding the table, like, give us more of him. Like,
we need more cowbell. We need more Dallas Turner.
Yeah, where is this guy? And I think he just got buried on the depth chart because he had so much talent above him. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't think we're done seeing Dallas Turner, and I think we'll see more and more of him as he's developed.
Yeah.
So
one thing
that was a cool moment in the draft.
Yeah, I think Vikings fans are quick to point at Jared Verse of the LA Rams, who I believe was drafted after Dallas Turner, and they both play the same position. Jared Verse, I'm pretty sure, made the Pro Bowl. He was a force against the Vikings in both their games, and definitely had a better rookie year than Dallas Turner. But the argument on that is Jared Verse is literally 3 to 4 years older than Dallas Turner and doesn't have the college pedigree exactly that Dallas Turner had, or the full position room on the depth chart. Dallas Turner didn't have the chance to get on the field much because you have Pro Bowler Jonathan Grenard and Pro Bowler Andrew Van Ginkel both in front of him. Yep. And for a minute, Jones, who signed with
Pat Jones.
Pat Jones. He was leading the league in sacks for a couple of games. Like, it was tough for him to get on the field just off of depth chart reasons, not even just practice, performance. But yeah, that was a fun Turner. We're getting him, and then the camera looking at KSC like he looked like somebody had just revealed themselves as an alien to him, and he was like, "What? I can't believe it."
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's definitely an honorable mention. I think the video of Spielman and Zimmer reacting to getting Jefferson after the Eagles got Jalen Reagor was better.
Yeah.
But that's definitely an honorable mention for me. So all of that to say, the draft is coming up. We're excited. We'll be there. We'll have the popcorn ready. Mm-hmm. We'll be eagerly anticipating whatever the Vikings choose to do.
Yeah. And I think soon after the draft, we'll have friend of the show Forrest on. Have him on again, because
he's the college football guy.
He will know. Like, he probably knows more about some of the current Vikings players, definitely college careers, than we ever will.
Yep.
But he is the guy that he's very interested in the Michigan Wolverines and college football overall. So he's at least heard the names of these big guys, the first rounders, and we'll have at least some opinion on him. I was just talking to him today. He says he's thinking there's going to be potentially 4 Wolverines that get drafted in their first round.
Oh, wow.
And 1 or 2 of them seem like they could be fits for the Vikings too. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm excited to watch the draft. As much as I say, it doesn't matter too much to me, I still enjoy watching it. It's still really fun because it shapes the entire league. The whole league changes in really one night, but ultimately a weekend. And some of the names you'll never hear again. I think fans of, other teams would have no clue who Lewis Seen is. And that's his own fault because he never did anything. But Vikings fans who are our age will never forget that name. And there's probably names like that for every single team. It's like, oh, you don't know who Easton Stick is? Like, no, I don't know who that is. Oh, he's a quarterback and he's supposed to be pretty good, but blah, blah, blah. It's fun to have that. And that's another reason I think Vikings fans like to say, like, oh, it's never been worse to be a fan of another team than the Vikings. Like, it's still fun. I'm excited.
Well, it's pretty good to be us because we've had some good beer. We've had some good chats. We can just sit here in these LED lights and bask in the non-harmful rays.
I think I'm getting some kind of a burn here.
What'd you think of the beer, though?
Oh, it only got better. I can definitely tell it's a little bit boozier than like a pseudo-sue. I think a pseudo-sue is like a mid to low 5s percentage. Yeah,
maybe 6.
Maybe.
Maybe a low or a high 5, low 6.
Flavor-wise, this kind of reminds me of pseudo-sue. Pseudo-sue is way hazier. Definitely not exactly the same. But I really like it. It's got that fruity vibes to it without being a straight up sour. It's really good. As a lover of IPAs, it's definitely in that wheelhouse. I wouldn't change anything about this, and for what it is, I think it's perfect. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I've enjoyed it. Maybe a little more so than you.
Yeah, I'm long winded, so I talk a lot more. So of course you're gonna drink more because
we both get that. No, I agree with everything you said. I like the balance of the fruit and the hops. I think they did a nice job with that, and it's definitely something that I'll try to find again on the shelf for sure. I shop for beer pretty regularly, and I scan the shelves. I don't just gravitate towards what I like. I do that, but I also look for what haven't I tried before and what's new, and especially in the Iowa craft brewery category, I definitely look for what's new and what haven't we tried before. And I haven't seen this one before, so this is a good find, and definitely one that I'll have to seek out on my own for sure.
Like I said, I think this one's relatively new. Within the last month or so it has been released, so definitely early 2025 is when they released it. Anything Toppling Goliath, even the lemon meringue, like anything they put out, I'm at least enjoying, if not loving the crap out of. They do a really good job.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe this summer we'll take a little road trip up there.
If we don't do it during the Brew Hop 2.0, which we will be planning here
Soon.
in the near future, if we don't do it then, I definitely, as big of a fan of that brewery as I am, to say I've never been there physically is kind of embarrassing for me. So I definitely need to go there, and maybe just the best thing is we need to do it on the Brew Hop. And who knows, maybe we'll have another voice along with us during that Brew Hop.
I've been there once, and it's phenomenal, but I agree with you. Yes, we should try to loop that in. I was coercing you there.
Twist my arm. Oh no.
You on.
Oh no, we have to go to one of my favorite breweries of all time. Yeah, dang it.
Yeah. No, we'll try to make that happen for sure.
Sweet.
But this beer was really good too.
Yeah.
So,
well, if our listeners have tried this and have an opinion on this, or haven't tried it and want to ask more of our opinion on this, how can they reach out to us?
Well, you could email us, theskolhop@gmail.com. You could also find us at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
I'm sorry, what's Twitter? Is that what you said? What's that?
Yeah, it's Twitter. It's not, I don't care what Elon Musk calls it. It's Twitter. It will always be Twitter. If you Google Twitter, you'll get to Twitter.
Yeah.
It might be called something else after you type in Twitter, but it's still Twitter.
Well, if you can't recognize what we're talking about, the other name would be X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I refuse to call it that. I think it's stupid. Just as much as I think the Cybertruck that I saw driving down the road today was stupid. Like,
I know it might be an unpopular opinion. I like the Cybertruck. I'm not like, oh, it's the best ever, but I don't hate it. Like, so I get that it looks goofy.
Now we're back to the GIF conversation again.
No, you're so wrong on that. It's GIF.
I think you're terribly wrong. The Cybertrucks are stupid. They look ridiculous.
They look goofy, but I like them.
I hate them. I think they're dumb.
I like them. They are the 2020 version of the Buccaneers jerseys of trucks. Remember with like the block letters?
Yes.
And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
And I didn't hate those Buccaneers jerseys.
I did.
Their current ones are a trillion times better, and they should never go back. But if they had like a throwback game and they wore those weird robot jerseys again, I'd be here for it. I'd be all for it.
The robot jerseys. Anyways, go find us wherever you consume content on social media. We're probably there. And if we're not there, send us an email and we'll try to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as where you can consume our content, podcast-wise, we're on any podcast platform out there. Also, you can see our beautiful faces on YouTube, and we put the video on Spotify as well. So,
yes, we do.
If you want to find us, just search the Skol Hop, and you will find us, I promise.
Yes. Yes, you will. All right, man.
Great beer. Great episode. I'm super excited for the draft. This is going to be a fun couple of weeks to talk about the Vikings.
Should be a good one.
Skol.
Skol.